friends. I'm very happy to be here, and I thank Ilaiah sir and organizing committee for giving this rare and great opportunity to share some of my views on the particular book that has been assigned to me to review. That is The Weapon of the Other. This book is particularly written on the nationalism, question of nationalism. The title is Dalit-Bahujan Writing and the Remaking of Indian Nationalist Thought. It is published by ESN in 2010. Let me start with, I will go by point by point since time is very short. In preface, there are 7 chapters, really, talking to the, Dalit epistemology and Brahminical epistemology, then early, nationalist, Dalit-Bahujan nationalist thought, and then Pule Ambedkar nationalist thought, then Telugu discourse, Telugu anti-Brahman nationalist thinking, then Dalit movement and conclusion. These are the chapters. Let me make pick up one of the comments he made in preface. Preface, he was trying to explain, narrate his own experience in Tirumurti Library. This is a product of the Tirumurti scholarship from 1994 to 1997. Therefore, there is a need to talk about the Tirumurti experience of Kancha Ilaiah. He made a comment that in Tirumurti I was alone. Not that there was nobody to talk to me, but among them I was alone. That loneliness made me to think about this broader topic, that is nationalism. When he was talking, trying to talk about the nationalism through Dalit-Bahujan perspective. There are books, many books which he didn't come across the Dalit-Bahujan perspective, where the books are talking, the scholars are talking. But that's where he is precisely commenting on the institutions, how institutions, particularly academic institutions, reproduce the Brahminical, ideological state operators in creating and imagining and constructing the nation and nationalism. So that's where his comment precisely tells us that the institutions that we are, in which we are, really reproduce in order to de-Brahmanize these institutions or challenge the Brahminical surveillance in institutions. There is a need to institutionalize the Dalit-Bahujan thought. Now that's where is very particular, and he decided to talk about the nationalism through Dalit-Bahujan perspective. I am not neither expert nor I thoroughly studied the discourse on nationalism in India, but I am very much interested in Ilaiah's work. In that way, I am connected with this book. I come across a very few works on nationalism, particularly which look at through Ambedkar and Dalit-Bahujan discourse, and particularly Aloysius was one of the major works, and also this is a very important work that has come to exist, but it is not well popularized. I don't know why, what is that, but very few people know this. But then I personally feel there is a need to read thoroughly, particularly when we talk Ilaiah. Methodologically speaking, I am very much interested in methodology of the Ilaiah, although he takes many issues on many concepts. Methodologically speaking, this is my preliminary understanding. Now he is trying to trace out the nationalism through historical perspective. That's where first chapters deals with the conflict between epistemological conflict between Dalitism and Brahmanism, where actually is trying to trace out the knowledge production that Dalit communities have constructed and produced and imagined, and the Brahminical attached to the Brahminical tradition. He is talking about the Lokayata tradition and then Buddhist tradition. In medieval period, is trying to invoke some of the secular tradition. Then we have a Pule Ambedkar tradition. Particularly, then second chapter deals with the early nationalist thought. Particularly, is trying to comment on the a reformistic tradition of the Hindus. Particularly, Brahma Samaj, Arya Samaj, and Pratna Samaj are in the way to modernize the Brahmanism or Hinduism. They are actually not trying to accommodate the larger community. That's where implicitly is telling us that actually these reformist traditions reproduce the Brahminical ideological state apparatus in a modest way. And against to that, we have a tradition where Pule comes into picture, is invoking the Satyashoda tradition. Actually, that negated the Brahminical tradition in visualizing the nation and nationalism. But here, particularly, when we in essence, one of the point I gone through is I got a point. Ilaiah, in essence, one of the points is there are three tendencies in challenging the Hindu forces, Brahminical tradition, in political science particularly. One is to challenge the Hinduism. One is you have to make it as a Hinduism and minority, so that you have to support the minorities in order to challenge the fundamentalism. That is one kind of scholarly discourse. And second one is particularly Hinduism is it is against the secular values that we visualize in the democratic setup. So therefore, minority versus Hinduism and secularism versus Hinduism. These are the two tendencies. But in my view, this is my reading, Ilaiah precisely talking those models, two models, it doesn't help us to challenge the Brahminical tradition in a fundamental level. Therefore, one has to see this Brahminical tradition or Hindu tradition in making these are harm to the majority who are part of the who claim to be part of the Hindu. That's where you actually politically intellectually you able to make a solidarity between these diverse groups who call as a Bahujan against Hinduism. This is one of the very important points that is making. Particularly, he's talking in one of the chapters. He's talking about the Dalit movement, particularly the series of atrocities, humiliation, caste violence. These are all actually make Dalits to rethink and propose the alternative cultural symbols. Now that's where I feel personally, tell me any upper caste, progressive, radical scholar and thinker, whatever, can imagine a buffalo nationalism. It is just impossible. I feel personally, it is impossible to imagine a nationalism with buffalo. Just is impossible. What I feel personally, that's where really reorienting ourselves and challenging the Brahminical tradition with a pure alternative. There is a implicit proposition and critique. I think you can come across where Kancha Ilaiah is not proposing alternative things in every aspect. You take globalization, you take English, you take Telangana, you take nationalism, you take production relations. Every aspect is not only a strong criticizer and also proposer. That's where I think one of the very important. But there are scholars who can critique it, but there is no way in which they can propose something. That's where I think is organic link with the production communities. Tell me any scholar who can propose Mangalis as a doctor, but just impossible. That insight, I said, really will have a greater ability to challenge the Brahminical traditions, particularly. I think this nation, the third point he was making, this nation and nationalism has to build on the Dalit anti-caste, Dalit-Bahujan anti-caste legacy that we have that he is trying to trace from the localizers to the present Dalitization of the nation. Where in Dalitization is proposing 5 to 6 concepts, particularly trying to bring the production relations, egalitarian principles, gender relations, and so on and so forth. Now I think this is very important attempt to bring the Dalit-Bahujan perspective in imagining the nation. I feel personally the ideological location of the Ilaiah is one can see within the Pule Ambedkarite thought. That's where that ideological spirit make him more confident in order to methodologically pick up his own experiences. Because he wrote a piece on Madhigas, particularly, I feel. The way he has written on Madhigas, it's unimaginable. But that's where it's not the question of who represents who, but the way you represent, what you want to represent is very important question. What you want to represent is also how nearer you are to the subject that you want to represent is also very important. In that way, in terms of footnotes, so-called academic standard, there are footnotes one can go through, and there is a coherence in chapters particularly, and I feel personally there could have much more coherence in the chapters, and there is a need to go in a deeper in theorizing the Dalit-Bahujan perspective on nationalism. I think that's where although it is a rigorous attempt, there is a need to go beyond what has been explained, and in order to theorize and philosophize this particular topic. I recommend all the scholars, friends, please do this. This is one of the very important texts that Ilaiahs are able to produce along with the range of texts. Thank you.